The envelope landed on Sophia Chen's kitchen table with a soft thud that somehow sounded like a death sentence. Her hands shook as she tore it open, already knowing what she'd find inside. Red letters screamed across the page. Final notice. She had 14 days to pay $47,000 or lose her bakery, the only thing standing between her and complete ruin. Rain hammered against the windows of her small Brooklyn apartment. Sophia stared at the number until it blurred, her mind racing through impossible calculations. Her bakery barely made enough to cover rent and supplies. Her mother's medical bills kept climbing. And now this. She'd been stupid to borrow from Vincent Morty. Everyone in the neighborhood knew his name, whispered it with a mixture of fear and respect. He owned half of Brooklyn, controlled the other half, and had a reputation for collecting debts by any means necessary. But 3 years ago, when her mother's cancer diagnosis came and the bank laughed at her loan application, Sophia had been desperate. Morty had been surprisingly reasonable then. Professional. He'd given her the money with a handshake and simple terms, repay within 3 years with 20% interest. She'd managed the monthly payments until 6 months ago when her mother's treatment costs doubled and suppliers raised their prices. Now the grace period was over. Sophia's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her swipe to accept. Miss Chen. The voice was smooth, masculine, with an edge of Brooklyn grit underneath. This is Dante Reeves. I work for Mr. Morty. I'll be at your bakery tomorrow morning at 9 to discuss your outstanding debt. Don't make me wait. The line went dead before she could respond. Sophia spent that night baking. Flour dusted her arms as she kneaded dough with furious energy, trying to work out the panic clawing at her chest. Her bakery, Sweet Haven, was a tiny storefront wedged between a dry cleaner and a bodega on a busy corner in Sunset Park. Nothing fancy, but it was hers. The morning customers loved her almond croissants, her sourdough that took 3 days to make properly, her custom cakes decorated with such care that people cried when they saw them. This place was her dream, her mother's pride, her refuge from a world that had been cruel more often than kind. She couldn't lose it. At 8:45 the next morning, Sophia stood behind her counter arranging fresh pastries in the display case. The shop smelled like butter and vanilla and hope. She'd worn her best dress, a simple navy blue thing that made her look more professional than she felt. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat bun, though strands kept escaping. The bell above the door chimed at exactly 9 o'clock. Dante Reeves walked in like he owned the place, and maybe in a way he did. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit that screamed money and danger. His dark hair was slicked back, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass, his eyes a cold slate gray that missed nothing. Behind him came 2 men built like refrigerators, their hands clasped in front of them, their faces blank. Sophia's heart hammered against her ribs, but she kept her chin up. "Mr. Reeves, can I offer you some coffee?" His eyes swept over the bakery, taking in the worn wooden tables, the cheerful yellow walls she'd painted herself, the handwritten menu board. Then they landed on her, and she felt the weight of his assessment like a physical touch. Black, no sugar. His voice matched his appearance, hard, controlled, completely unreadable. She poured the coffee with steady hands, a small victory. When she handed him the cup, their fingers brushed, and she felt the calluses there. Dante Reeves wasn't just muscle in an expensive suit. He was something more complicated. "Let's talk in the back," he said, nodding toward the kitchen. Her 2 employees, Maria and Josh, watched with wide eyes as Sophia led Dante and his men through the swinging door into her small workspace. Flour dusted the metal counters. Racks of cooling bread lined one wall. The industrial mixer hummed quietly in the corner. Dante dismissed his men with a gesture. They positioned themselves by the door, and suddenly the kitchen felt very small. "You owe Mr. Morty $47,000, Dante said without preamble, pulling a folder from inside his jacket. "You've missed 3 payments. The contract stipulates immediate collection upon default." "I know what the contract says." Sophia's voice came out stronger than she expected. I need more time. Business is picking up. I can have half by the end of the month, the rest in 60 days. That's not how this works. Then how does it work? You take my bakery and sell it for pennies on the dollar. That helps no one. Dante's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Interest, maybe, or amusement. You have spirit. That's not going to save you. What will? He studied her for a long moment, his gaze traveling from her face down to her flour-dusted hands and back up again. Sophia refused to look away, even though every instinct screamed at her to submit, to beg, to show the fear coiling in her stomach. You work with addicts, Dante asked suddenly. The question threw her. What? I've been watching your bakery for a week. You have a kid who comes in every afternoon. Tattoos up his arms, needle tracks. You give him day-old bread, sometimes let him sweep the floor for a few dollars. Heat crept up Sophia's neck. Tommy's trying to get clean. He just needs a chance, Dante finished. You give a lot of people chances, Miss Chen. The single mom who pays half price for her daughter's birthday cake. The old man you let sit here for hours nursing one coffee. Very charitable for someone drowning in debt. Kindness isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Kindness gets you killed in my world. Sophia crossed her arms. Is there a point to this? Dante set his coffee cup down on the counter with deliberate care. Mr. Morty has a problem. His 15-year-old daughter was arrested last night for possession. Cocaine. She's been using for 6 months and he didn't notice. I'm sorry, but I don't see what that has to do with. She's been going to those fancy rehab centers in Connecticut, the ones that cost $50,000 a week and treat addiction like a spa vacation. Nothing's working. She keeps relapsing. He paused, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. Mr. Morty wants someone who actually gives a damn, someone who knows how to reach people who have lost hope. Understanding dawned slowly, impossibly. You want me to help his daughter. I want you to save her life. Dante's voice went quieter, harder. You do that, your debt disappears. You fail, you lose everything. Those are the terms. Sophia's mind reeled. I'm not a counselor. I'm not qualified to. You helped Tommy. You helped 3 other addicts I found in my background check on you. You have a gift for seeing people, really seeing them when everyone else has given up. He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell expensive cologne mixed with something else, coffee and rain and danger. Isabella Morty is going to die if someone doesn't reach her soon. Her father will destroy anyone and anything in his path when that happens, including you, your bakery, and everyone you care about. That's not a choice. That's extortion. Welcome to my world, Miss Chen. They stood there in the small kitchen, the hum of the mixer the only sound. Sophia thought of her mother, sleeping peacefully in their apartment thanks to medications Sophia could barely afford. Thought of Maria and Josh, who depended on their paychecks from Sweet Haven. Thought of Tommy and the way his hands had stopped shaking after 2 months of Sophia's patient encouragement. She thought of a 15-year-old girl she'd never met, lost and drowning in a world of wealth and privilege that should have protected her but hadn't. When do I start? Dante's expression didn't change, but something in his posture relaxed fractionally. Tonight, I'll pick you up at 7. The black Mercedes pulled up outside Sophia's apartment at exactly 7 o'clock. Dante emerged from the driver's seat himself, no bodyguards this time, dressed in dark jeans and a leather jacket that somehow made him look more dangerous than the suit had. He opened the passenger door without a word. The Morty estate was in Staten Island, hidden behind iron gates and tall hedges that blocked it from the street. The house itself was massive, all modern glass and white stone, every window glowing with warm light. It looked like something from a magazine, perfect and untouchable and cold. Isabella's in the East Wing, Dante said as they walked through the marble foyer. Paintings lined the walls, real art, not prints. A chandelier the size of Sophia's entire apartment hung overhead. She hasn't left her room in 3 days, won't eat, won't talk to anyone. Where's her mother? Dead, car accident when Isabella was 7. His voice went flat. Mr. Morty raised her alone, or tried to. Running a criminal empire doesn't leave much time for parenting. They climbed a sweeping staircase to the second floor. At the end of a long hallway, Dante stopped outside a white door covered in peeling band stickers and angry graffiti scrawled in permanent marker. "She's all yours," he said, but he didn't leave. He leaned against the opposite wall, arms crossed, watching. Sophia knocked. No answer. She knocked again. "Isabella, my name is Sophia. I'm not a doctor or a therapist. I'm a baker. Your father asked me to visit you." Silence. "I'm going to come in now. I brought croissants." The room beyond was a war zone. Clothes covered every surface, designer brands mixed with thrift store finds, all of it thrown carelessly aside. Posters of angry punk bands papered the walls. The curtains were drawn tight against the evening sun, and in the middle of a king-sized bed piled with blankets, a small figure huddled. Isabella Morty was tiny, all sharp angles and hollow cheeks. Her dark hair hung in greasy tangles around a face that would have been beautiful if it wasn't so ravaged. Track marks dotted her pale arms. Her eyes, when she finally looked up at Sophia, were ancient and empty. "Go away." Sophia sat down on the edge of the bed without permission. "I brought almond croissants. They're still warm." "I don't want your stupid croissants." "That's fair, more for me." Sophia opened the box and took a bite, making a show of savoring it. The buttery layers melted on her tongue, and despite everything, she smiled. "I make these from scratch. Takes about 3 days from start to finish if you count the time for the butter lamination." Isabella stared at her like she'd grown a second head. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because creating something beautiful takes time and patience and a lot of failure. I burned at least 50 batches before I got these right. Ruined my kitchen, made my neighbors hate me from the smoke alarms. But I kept trying because the end result was worth it." "That's a stupid metaphor for recovery." "Probably," Sophia took another bite, "but it's also true." For the first time, something flickered in Isabella's dead eyes. Curiosity, maybe, or the faint echo of the girl she used to be before drugs hollowed her out. "You're not like the others," Isabella said slowly. "The therapists and counselors, they all have the same look, like I'm a broken thing they need to fix." "You're not broken. You're in pain. There's a difference." Isabella's laugh was bitter and sharp. "You don't know anything about me." "You're right, I don't. But I know what it's like to feel invisible, to think no one really sees you." Sophia set the croissant box on the nightstand. "My father left when I was 8. My mother got sick when I was 23. I dropped out of culinary school to take care of her, gave up everything I'd planned for my life. Some days I was so angry I couldn't breathe. Angry at my father for leaving, angry at my mother for getting sick, angry at myself for not being stronger." Isabella was listening now, really listening, her eyes locked on Sophia's face. "I started baking because I needed to create something, anything, that I had control over. Bread doesn't care if you're scared or angry or falling apart. It just needs time and heat and patience. And when you pull it out of the oven and it's perfect, golden and warm and smelling like heaven, you remember that you're capable of making beautiful things, even on your worst days." "Baking can't fix what's wrong with me." "No, but it's a start. It's something to do with your hands when you're craving drugs, something to focus on when your mind is screaming, something that proves you're still capable of creation instead of just destruction." Isabella pulled her knees to her chest, making herself even smaller. "My dad sent you here to fix me." "Your dad sent me here because he's terrified of losing you and doesn't know what else to do." Sophia's voice softened. "But I'm not here to fix you, Isabella. I'm here to bake with you if you want. And if you don't want that, I'll just sit here and eat these croissants by myself until you tell me to leave." For a long moment, Isabella didn't move. Then, slowly, she reached out and took a croissant from the box. She bit into it, and Sophia watched as tears spilled down her hollow cheeks. "I'm so tired," Isabella whispered. "I'm so tired of fighting." Sophia took her hand, small and cold and trembling. "Then stop fighting alone." From the hallway, Dante watched through the crack in the door. He saw Isabella crying into Sophia Chen's shoulder, saw the baker's arms wrap around the broken girl with a gentleness that made something in his chest ache. In 15 years of working for Vincent Morty, collecting debts and eliminating threats, Dante had seen every kind of human interaction. Violence, manipulation, fear. He'd never seen anything like this. 3 weeks passed in a strange new rhythm. Sophia came to the Morty estate every evening after closing her bakery. She and Isabella baked together in the mansion's enormous kitchen, working side by side in flour-dusted silence or talking about everything and nothing. Isabella's hands shook the first week, her body screaming for the drugs she'd denied it. Sophia didn't lecture or judge. She just kept teaching, kept showing Isabella how to fold butter into dough, how to shape bread, how to wait. The waiting was the hardest part. "Why does it take so long?" Isabella demanded on the 5th night, staring at the covered bowl of rising dough. "Because good things can't be rushed," Sophia said. "You try to speed it up, you ruin it. You have to trust the process." Isabella laughed darkly. "I'm not good at trusting." "Neither am I, but we're learning together." Dante was always there, a silent presence leaning against the kitchen counter or sitting at the massive dining table. He never spoke during the baking sessions, just watched with those unreadable gray eyes. Sophia tried to ignore him, but she felt his gaze like a physical weight. One night, after Isabella had gone to bed, Dante walked Sophia to her car. "She's different," he said abruptly. "Lighter, less angry." "She's still struggling. Recovery isn't linear." "I know." He paused, his jaw working like he was chewing over words he didn't want to say. "Thank you." Sophia stopped, surprised. In 3 weeks, Dante had been professional, distant, impossible to read. This was the first time he'd shown anything resembling emotion. "I'm not doing this for you or your boss," she said. "I'm doing it for Isabella." "I know that too." He stepped closer, and in the glow of the security lights, she saw something new in his face. Vulnerability quickly hidden. "She reminds me of my sister. Same age, same fire. She died 5 years ago, overdose." The confession hung in the air between them, fragile and painful. "I'm sorry," Sophia said softly. "Don't be, it was my fault. I was so busy working for Morty, climbing the ranks, proving myself that I missed all the signs. By the time I noticed, it was too late." His voice went rough. "I see my sister in every addict on every street corner, and I can't save any of them, but maybe you can save Isabella." Without thinking, Sophia reached out and touched his arm. Dante went very still, staring down at her hand like he'd forgotten what kindness felt like. "You're saving her too," Sophia said. "By bringing me here, by caring enough to try something different." "I don't do this for redemption. There's no redemption for men like me." "Maybe not, but there's tomorrow, and the day after that, and all the choices you make in between." Dante's hand covered hers, warm and rough and impossibly gentle. For a moment they stood there in the darkness, two people from different worlds connected by shared pain and fragile hope. Then he stepped back, the walls slamming into place. "Good night, Miss Chen." The breakthrough came on a rainy Thursday in week 4. Isabella had been quiet all evening, her movements mechanical as she shaped dinner rolls. Sophia recognized the signs. The girl was craving, fighting an internal battle that showed in every tense line of her body. "Talk to me," Sophia said. "About what?" "Whatever's eating at you." Isabella's hands stilled in the dough. "I went to a party before I got arrested. My friend Jessica was there. She offered me Coke and I said yes without thinking, didn't even hesitate." Her voice cracked. "Everyone thinks my dad forced me to use because he's a criminal, because I'm damaged by his lifestyle. But the truth is I wanted it. I wanted to feel nothing. And that makes me weak." "That makes you human." "Humans don't do this to themselves." Sophia came around the counter and took Isabella's floury hands in hers. "Look at me. You are not weak for struggling with addiction. You're not weak for making mistakes. You're weak if you give up. And you're still here, still fighting. That's strength, Isabella. That's everything." Isabella broke then, sobbing into Sophia's shoulder while the rolls sat forgotten on the counter. Dante appeared in the doorway, drawn by the sound, but Sophia shook her head slightly. This moment was theirs. When Isabella finally pulled away, her eyes were red but clearer than Sophia had ever seen them. "I want to get clean, really clean. No more relapses, no more running." Then we'll do it together, one day at a time. That night, Vincent Morty himself came down to the kitchen. Sophia had never met the man who held her debt, and the reality was both more and less than she'd imagined. He was in his 50s, handsome in a weathered way, with graying dark hair and eyes exactly like his daughter's. He wore an expensive suit even at 11 at night, but his tie was loosened, and exhaustion lined his face. "Miss Chen," his voice was rough gravel and smoke. "Dante tells me Isabella's improving." "She's trying, that's what matters." Morty looked at his daughter, asleep on the kitchen couch with her head pillowed on her arms, and something in his hard face softened. "I've built an empire. I control territory from here to Philadelphia. I've made men beg for mercy and never blinked, but I couldn't save my own daughter." "You brought me here. That's saving her." He turned to Sophia, and she saw the dangerous man underneath the exhausted father. "Your debt is forgiven. As of tonight, you owe me nothing. But I want you to keep coming, not because you have to, but because Isabella needs you. I'll come because I care about her, not because you're paying me or threatening me, because she matters." Morty studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You're tougher than you look, Miss Chen." "I have to be." After Morty left, Dante walked Sophia to her car again. It had become their ritual, these quiet moments in the darkness where the rest of the world fell away. "Your debt really is forgiven," he said. "Morty keeps his word." "I know." Sophia leaned against her car, suddenly exhausted. "I'll still come, every night until Isabella doesn't need me anymore." "That could be months, years." "I know that too." Dante's expression shifted, and Sophia realized with a jolt that he was smiling. Actually smiling, small and real and devastating. "You're remarkable." Heat crept up her neck. "I'm just doing what anyone would do." "No, anyone would have taken the money and run. You chose to stay." He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating off him. "I haven't been able to stop thinking about you." Sophia's breath caught. "Dante." "I know it's wrong. You're here for Isabella and I'm—" He trailed off, jaw working. "I'm a debt collector for the mob. I've done things that would make you run screaming. But when I'm near you, I remember what it felt like to be something other than a weapon." His confession stripped away every defense Sophia had built. She saw him clearly now, not the dangerous enforcer in the expensive suit, but the man underneath. Scarred, haunted, reaching for something better. "I think about you too," she admitted. "More than I should." Dante's eyes went dark. He reached up slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, and cupped her face in his rough hand. His thumb brushed her cheek with heartbreaking gentleness. "Tell me to stop." "I can't." He kissed her then, soft and searching, tasting of coffee and want and all the words they hadn't said. Sophia melted into him, her hands fisting in his jacket, feeling his heart hammer against her palm. The kiss deepened, desperate and sweet, two broken people finding unexpected salvation in each other. When they finally broke apart, Dante pressed his forehead to hers, breathing hard. "This is dangerous." "Everything about you is dangerous." "I'm serious, Sophia. My world, it destroys good things. It destroys good people." She pulled back to look him in the eyes. "Then we'll have to be stronger than your world." The next 2 months blurred together in a haze of flower and stolen kisses and slow, painful progress. Isabella relapsed twice, each time climbing back with Sophia's patient help. She started attending meetings, talking to real therapists, letting herself be vulnerable in ways that terrified her. Sophia's bakery thrived with the debt lifted. She hired another employee, expanded her catering business, finally had breathing room. But every evening still found her in the Morty kitchen, teaching Isabella new recipes, listening to her fears, celebrating her small victories. And every night, Dante walked her to her car. Sometimes they just talked, sharing pieces of their broken pasts. Sometimes they kissed in the shadows, hungry and desperate and achingly tender. They never named what was growing between them, this fragile thing that felt like hope. Until the night, everything fell apart. Sophia arrived at the estate to find police cars and unmarked vehicles crowding the driveway. Federal agents swarmed the property, boxes of files being carried out, weapons drawn. Her heart stopped. A hand caught her arm. Dante, his face grim, pulled her behind a hedge. FBI raid. Someone talked. They're arresting Morty and half his organization. Where's Isabella? Inside with her father. They haven't taken her yet, but they will. Child Services is on the way. Sophia's mind raced. Can you get me inside? It's too dangerous. They'll arrest anyone who. I don't care. Get me to Isabella. Something flickered in Dante's eyes. Pride, maybe, or resignation. He led her through a back entrance that the FBI hadn't secured yet, up a servant's staircase to Isabella's room. The girl sat on her bed, arms wrapped around herself, rocking. They're taking him away. They're taking my dad. Sophia dropped to her knees in front of Isabella, taking her cold hands. Look at me. Whatever happens, you're going to be okay. You're stronger than you know. I can't do this without you, without him, without... Isabella's breath came in gasps, panic attack building. I need. You need to breathe, Sophia said firmly. With me, in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, come on. They breathed together until Isabella's gasps slowed, until color returned to her face. Footsteps thundered in the hallway. They're coming, Dante said from the doorway. Isabella looked between them, tears streaming down her face. Will you come visit me, wherever they send me? Every single day, Sophia promised. I swear. The door burst open. FBI agents, child services workers, the machinery of justice grinding forward. Sophia stood, placing herself between them and Isabella, this girl she'd come to love. I'm Sophia Chen. I'm Isabella's mentor and friend. I'll testify to her sobriety, her progress, whatever you need. But please don't separate us. The social worker, a tired woman with kind eyes, touched Sophia's arm. We're not the enemy here, Miss Chen. We want what's best for Isabella. In the chaos that followed, Dante caught Sophia's hand and pressed something into her palm. A key. My apartment address is on the tag. If you need somewhere safe, somewhere away from all this, go there. I trust you. Then he was gone, melting into the shadows like he'd never been there at all. 6 months later, Sophia stood in front of a judge, her hands folded, her heart in her throat. Isabella sat beside her, dressed in a simple blue dress Sophia had bought her, looking young and terrified and brave. Vincent Morty was serving 20 years in federal prison. His empire had crumbled. Dante had vanished after the raid, no trace, no message. Sophia tried not to think about where he might be, what might have happened to him. But Isabella had stayed sober. 6 months clean, the longest stretch of her life. She'd been placed in a group home initially, but Sophia had fought through every legal channel to become her guardian. It had taken lawyers she couldn't afford, character witnesses, and more patience than she'd known she possessed. The judge looked down at them, expression unreadable. Miss Chen, do you understand the responsibility you're taking on? Yes, Your Honor. Isabella, do you want this placement? Isabella's voice came out strong and clear. More than anything. The judge's stern face softened fractionally. Then I hereby grant temporary guardianship to Sophia Chen to be reviewed in 6 months. Take care of each other. Isabella burst into tears and threw her arms around Sophia. And for the first time in months, Sophia felt like she could breathe. That evening, they celebrated at Sweet Haven. Maria and Josh had decorated with streamers, and Sophia's mother had made Isabella's favorite dumplings. Tommy was there too, 1 year sober himself, working full-time at the bakery now. The small space overflowed with laughter and warmth and love. As the sun set and the party wound down, Sophia stepped outside for air. The street was quiet, Brooklyn settling into its evening rhythm. A figure separated from the shadows across the street. Tall, broad-shouldered, achingly familiar. Dante. He looked different, thinner, harder, wearing a worn jacket instead of expensive suits. But his eyes were the same, that slate gray that saw everything. Sophia ran to him without thinking, and he caught her, crushing her against his chest like he was afraid she'd disappear. You're alive, she gasped. I thought. I testified, gave the feds everything I knew about Morty's operations in exchange for immunity. Witness protection offered me a new identity, a fresh start somewhere far from here. His voice was rough against her hair. I told them no. Why? He pulled back just enough to look at her face, one hand coming up to cup her cheek with devastating tenderness. Because everything I want is here. You, Isabella, a chance at something real. Dante, if you stay. I'm done with that life. Done collecting debts, done hurting people. I want to build something instead of destroying it. I want. He stopped, jaw working. I want you, if you'll have me. Sophia kissed him, pouring 6 months of fear and longing into it. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she said, I want you too, scars and all. I come with a lot of scars. So do I will match. From inside the bakery, Isabella's laughter rang out, bright and genuine. Dante looked past Sophia to the warmth glowing through the windows, and something in his hard face softened. Think she'd be okay with me sticking around? I think she'd be devastated if you didn't. They stood there on the Brooklyn sidewalk as evening deepened into night, two broken people who'd found unexpected redemption in each other. The past would always be there, marked in scars and memories and debts that could never truly be repaid. But the future stretched out before them, uncertain and terrifying and bright with possibility. 1 year later, on a crisp autumn morning, Sophia stood in her expanded bakery and looked around with quiet pride. Sweet Haven had doubled in size, taking over the space next door. The lines stretched out the door every morning. Her custom cakes graced weddings and birthdays across 3 boroughs. But more than that, the bakery had become something unexpected, a second-chance factory. Tommy managed the front counter now, his arms still marked with old needle scars but steady and sure. 2 other former addicts worked the ovens, learning the same patience and discipline that had saved them. And teaching them all was Isabella, 16 now, radiant with health, who discovered she had her own gift for baking. Dante appeared in the kitchen doorway, flour dusting his dark hair, a soft smile on his face that still made Sophia's heart skip. He'd bought the bodega 2 doors down and turned it into a community center, offering job training and counseling. The debt collector had become a different kind of builder. Ready? He asked, extending his hand. Sophia took it, their fingers intertwining with familiar ease. Together they walked into the bakery's back room, where a small ceremony was about to begin. The judge who'd granted Isabella's guardianship stood at the front. Friends and family packed the space, Sophia's mother in her favorite chair, beaming, Maria and Josh, the whole Sweet Haven crew, even a few of Dante's old colleagues who'd left the life behind. And Isabella, wearing a white dress, her dark hair shining, her eyes bright with tears and joy. We are gathered here today, the judge began, to finalize the adoption of Isabella Morty-Chen. Sophia felt Dante's hand tighten on hers as Isabella smiled at them both. This girl they'd saved, who'd saved them right back. After the ceremony, after the tears and hugs and celebration, after everyone had gone home and Sweet Haven's lights dimmed, the 3 of them sat at a corner table sharing a cake Isabella had made herself. I've been thinking, Isabella said, looking between Sophia and Dante with mischief in her eyes. When are you 2 getting married? Because I'm not calling him Dante forever. He needs an official title. Dante choked on his coffee and Sophia laughed, the sound bright and free. Patience, she told Isabella, the same thing she'd said 1,000 times while teaching her to bake. Good things take time. But they're worth the wait, Isabella finished, grinning. I know. Outside, Brooklyn hummed with life. Somewhere in the city, debts were being called in, mistakes were being made, people were falling and breaking and losing their way. But here, in this small bakery built on flour and hope and second chances, 3 broken people had found something money could never buy. They'd found family. And that was worth more than any empire.